All right, let's talk about something we've all felt. That massive, sometimes impossible gap between us and our parents. You know what I'm talking about, right? It feels like you're speaking two completely different languages. So, what's going on there? Let's get into it. I mean, you know that feeling, right? You're trying to explain your job, or maybe you're trying to set a boundary, or just, talk about how you're feeling, and the advice you get back just feels like it's from a totally different era. It is so frustrating, and honestly, it can leave you feeling completely and totally misunderstood. So, what is actually going on here? Well, here's the thing. The real reason for this disconnect, it's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's actually something way more fundamental. It all comes down to the simple fact that you and your parents, you were raised in two completely radically different worlds. And this is really the key to the whole thing. Think about it. Their entire worldview, their morals, their beliefs, what they think a good life even looks like, all of that was shaped by a pretty small, local, analog world. Meanwhile, yours has been shaped by the vast, digital, global internet. And that single difference, right there, it explains pretty much everything that follows. Okay, so let's actually break this down. What did these two worlds really look like? Because when you put them side by side, the contrast is, well, it's pretty staggering. Okay, just look at this comparison. In their world, everything was hyper-local. Your influences were your family, your neighbors, the people you worked with. Reputation was everything. So naturally, the big values were things like community, hierarchy, and a sense of obligation. But then you look at our world. It's global, right? The internet shows us a million different ways to live, which is why we tend to value things like independence and self-reliance. Our information is basically limitless, while theirs was, for the most part, very limited and local. And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's just so much easier to accept a different worldview when you've, actually seen one. Our parents' idea of how to live was based on what was right in front of them. But for us, the internet has been this giant window to the entire world, showing us countless ways to live. That exposure just naturally makes you more open-minded. It's a window they just never had. Okay, so this two worlds idea sounds good in theory, but how does it actually play out in our day-to-day lives? Let's apply it to some of those classic, super common arguments we all have with our parents. Let's kick things off with a big one. This feeling that they're always interfering, they're in your business, questioning every decision you make, and they just won't respect your boundaries or give you any space. You're asking for independence, but what it feels like you're getting is just control. But hang on, let's try to reframe this for a second. From their perspective, what feels like control to us is actually their way of showing care. When we're screaming for independence, they're thinking that involvement is what a good parent does, and what we call a deep need for privacy, to them, that looks like a situation where they need to offer protection. And here's the why behind it all. This is so crucial. Their behavior, it's almost never about disrespecting you. It's about a definition of love that they learned from their world. I mean, in their world, deep involvement was the sign of good parenting. The whole concept of family privacy, as we think of it today, it just didn't really exist. Life was way more communal. All right, let's move on to another huge area of conflict, and that is our life choices, specifically our careers and our mental health. This is a big one. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You want to follow your passion. Maybe you're an artist or you want to start your own thing, and all they want is for you to follow a safe career path. Be a doctor, a lawyer, something stable. And then when you try to talk about your mental health, about feeling anxious or burnt out, the advice is basically just get over it or push through it. And this really shows the massive shift in priorities, right? For us, the focus is so often on self-expression and finding our passion. For them, it was all about financial security. We're encouraged to be emotionally open, while they were taught that being stoic was a sign of strength. When we talk about anxiety, we see it as something to address. For them, anxiety was often just seen as a part of life, something you just had to deal with. And again, what's the why? Well, it's rooted in their history. Many of our parents or grandparents lived through some serious economic instability. For them, security wasn't just a choice, it was the entire goal. That safe job they push for, it's not about them wanting to crush your dreams. It's about them trying to build a fortress to protect you from the fear and uncertainty they actually live through. It really does come from a place of love. And when it comes to mental health, a huge part of the problem is just language. We have this entire emotional vocabulary now. We have words like stress, anxiety, burnout. These terms are tools that help us identify and talk about what's going on inside. But their generation, they were just never taught this language. They were never given these tools. So it's not that they don't care, it's that they literally might not have the words to even understand what you're talking about.
Okay, so knowing all of this, what do we do? How can we actually start to bridge this gap? How do we get from a place of constant frustration to one of maybe a little more understanding?
Okay, here's a pretty simple 3-step way to think about it. First, validate your own feelings. It's okay to be frustrated. But then try to reframe their actions through their lens. Second, in the middle of a conflict, just try to remember that two worlds metaphor we talked about. And third, and this one is huge, remember that their actions are often their way of trying to be a better parent than the one they had. That thing that feels like interference, it might just be them trying to give you the care they always wished they'd gotten.
Because at the end of the day, your job isn't to change them, it's to understand them. You're probably never going to get them to see the world exactly the way you do. And you know what? That's okay. The real breakthrough happens when you stop trying to win the argument and you really start, trying to understand the person on the other side of it.
It really comes down to this idea. Listen to their whys. If you can really dig in and understand the why behind their advice, their fears, their perspective, well, it might just give you the clarity you need to figure out your own house. It's not about erasing the gap. It's about finally building a bridge across it.